I know the overall gist of the last couple of videos I've done has been kind of in regards to the video where I was responding to someone saying, and it's a medical doctor no less, which I think bothers me more than anything else because if you actually have degrees in neuroscience and you actually have degrees in medicine, you should know better than to minimize any kind of cult behavior as being a good thing. And I think that that's kind of, it's not been the overall content in the last two videos, but I think it's been something that's been present on my mind enough that I want to touch on something else in this particular video. And I got a subscriber comment to go with it. Like I said, I have a lot of good comments here lately. But one thing that I have noticed in my time in my 11 odd years of being in AA, when it comes to the gurus and when it comes to the people that get called on every meeting and the people that are literally the AA superstars. And I'm not going to claim that this is true in every single meeting everywhere, but I am going to say that I have had a lot of feedback from a lot of people all over the country, from as far away as Scotland to across the coast in California to everywhere else, that kind of points at these same type of malignant behaviors go on in every AA meeting. So I don't think I'm making too grand a claim to say that what I'm talking about here seems to be a dominant problem. But the people that were designated as gurus and the people that were designated as kind of the the wise old elders that everybody had to call on, the people that were miserable and angry and pissed off and bullying, or the people that just seemed real insecure and wanted to get a lot of attention, none of them seemed to have their life together in any kind of way that I would call, well, as AA calls it, if you want what we have. Looking back on it now, nobody in there had anything that I would. First of all, I find it a little bit disturbing to use that kind of a sentence anyway about anything. If you want what we have, what makes you think I want what you have? Maybe I'm a free-thinking individual with a mind of my own and a personality of my own and interest of my own, and I don't want to be like you. Maybe that is one good thing about ego, since ego is a sense of self. That is what ego is, by the way, whenever they say, it's just your ego. Yeah, it is. It's my sense of self. And my sense of self thinks enough that it says I don't have to blindly agree to some bullying asshole because you can quote an outdated book full of baseless assertions, logical fallacies, and I could go on. But I didn't see anybody that I would want to emulate. I'll change the point rather than I want what you have, or, but again, that seems kind of weird. That's more or less saying at the core, if you want to become one of us, then you're going to have to be ready to take certain steps. Of course, we'll confuse you with a lot of muddled language and double talk, and we'll mistreat you and gaslight you and all that other kind of thing, but you're supposed to readily accept it with a big stupid fucking grin on your face because you want what we have. And when I got to know a lot of those people, especially during my last 3 or 4 years of AA, when I was living with that piece of shit sponsor above his garage, in his garage, nobody ever actually seemed to have their shit together in any kind of way, shape, form, or fashion, which makes me question it when people tell me AA works, AA saved my life. What I saw for the most part in my own experience in AA was a lot of people, because there was a huge turnover rate, which right there should be a red flag, because if it's such a successful, wonderful way of life, a life beyond your wildest dreams, why would it always have such a massive turnover rate? Why would you see a churn rate practically going on at every AA clubhouse I ever went to? Every AA clubhouse I ever went to, if you went to it longer than 6 months to a year, outside of the gurus and outside of the the esteemed wise old elders, as I'm making a mockery of that. I don't call them esteemed or wise. They were usually pieces of shit. Were the only consistent members. There were people like myself and people like some of the homeless people that were constantly relapsing, constantly picking up white chips. I finally stopped doing it. Constantly doing that kind of thing for whatever reason. But overall, the entire I guess you could say the entire body of the meeting itself had completely shifted in a 180-degree angle because it had all turned over. And I noticed that the people who stayed with any kind of longevity, and I'm not talking about Like, I remember one guy that said, I've been coming to AA since 1987, and I just now got 90 days. He was actually kind of a laid-back dude, but he wasn't one of the predatory assholes, the AA hegemony that I go after in these videos. But it seemed like the so-called AA hegemony, and it seemed like, or the esteemed elders, or whatever you want to call them, you know what I'm talking about, the little social clique that runs the entire meeting, that controls the home group, that decides who talks, that decides who's going to become a part of the in crowd, the one that decides whether you're going to be an outcast, whether you're welcome to the inner little circle, where, by the way, in the meeting after the meeting, they all talk terrible about one another and make fun of people and make a mockery of people, by the way. But it seemed like with them, they were the first ones to adamantly say, "AA saved my life." Well, not really. Not by my own observation, because they didn't seem to have any life to point to. They seemed to make a career out of going to AA meetings and bragging about how wonderful their life was. And a lot of them, when I got to know them, found out that was just that. It was bragging. A lot of those people seemed to be, when you got to know them, their real personal lives, it was pretty empty, pretty shallow, pretty shitty for the most part. There was a bit of a common theme that I saw running through with a bunch of them. They didn't have any kind of hesitancy to rip people off. They didn't have any kind of hesitancy to lie to somebody if it could get them some personal gain. I knew people that would borrow money off people and refuse to pay them back, and if you brought it up to them, they would throw a temper tantrum, and we're not even getting into all the 13 stepping I saw going on. And the 13 stepping, I had somebody come at me one time and say, "Whoa, what two consenting people do is their own business." I agree. What two consenting people do is their own business. But when you got a girl who's barely off drugs, who just got out of treatment with no place to sleep, and you go with your bottle of Valium over here and you say, "Well, you know what? Fuck that. I'll give you a couple of these." And you get her high and you get her wasted and you do things to her, and then you turn her out onto the street into the middle of the night because you just fucking feel like it. That's a little bit different. I'm all for people having whatever, kind of relationships they want to have, but it's a different thing entirely when they're preying on people the way they prey on people in those meetings. There was one lady who said that she was trying to clean up her act, barely had gotten out of treatment, and the guy was already buying her heroin. And, so I don't know if you would really, I think you would have to argue really, really, really hard and long to call that consensual, I mean, especially, well, I could keep going. But that was what I noticed was the underlying theme about a lot of those people. There was a guru one time, for example, that, and he was a young guru. He was not an older guru. He was a little bit older than myself, so he wasn't, at this time, he would have been in his late 30s, I guess, but he was called on every meeting. He was allowed to talk every meeting, and everybody oohed and ahed and nodded, vigorously to whatever he was saying. But he had a fucking attitude with me for no reason. And of course, me being a cult member at the time, I tried to do a 4-step about it, and I tried to look at my part in it, I tried to do all that. In fact, one day he just come by me and he just flipped me off for no reason, glaring at me like that. And there was another guy I bumped into who was like me. He was a chronic relapser, constantly picking up white chips. And we were standing outside and we were smoking cigarettes, and he come walking by, high and mighty young hotshot guru there, he walked with his head all out like that. He walked right by us like that, and the guy standing there talking to me, he said, "Would you like to know something about that guy?" I said, "I know he's a fucking asshole. What else do I need to know about him?" He said, "Well, you see that office building over there?" And I looked at it, I said, "Yeah, I see it." I said, "It's, he said, "That's where I work." He said, "I've worked there for the past 9 years. He said, "That is a commercial printing company, and this is the offices." He said, "But that window up there is my office. In fact, if you ever come to an afternoon meeting and you think I'm full of shit, just look up at the window and wave, and I will wave back at you." He said, "I've been with the company 11 years, and yeah, I somehow got that office." And he said, "I didn't get an office with a downtown view. I got an office with a fucking AA clubhouse view." But he said, "I can tell you something about that guy." He said, "The one that looks down on people like you and me." He said, "He's never had a job in all the years I've known him." He said, "Every morning," he said, I come into this office around 8 a.m. usually, And he said, I come up there and I get on my computer and everything. He said, he's hanging out down there. He's done opened up the meeting and he's hanging out with a few people. And he said, by mid-afternoon, when I step out on the balcony of that building to smoke a cigarette, he's hanging out at the other meeting. He said he's never had a job. He's borrowed money off people and never paid them back. He said, I don't know where he gets his income from. I know he claimed that he was going to file some phony disability. I don't know if he did or not, but he said, it irks me to no end that I am a guy who's always had work my entire adult life. I worked hard to get the promotion, that tiny little shitty promotion that put me in that fucking corner office up there. And I have to get lectured by this guy about what I should do with my life, you know. And he said, I'm outcasted here because I can get 30, 40 days before I have a drink again. And it occurred to me that seemed to be a common trend among most of the AA gurus. What I noticed the program was the ability to quote big book lines in meetings and the ability to say all the right things and then not do any of it when you left. This same young guru that I'm talking about, the one who never had a job, one time, I forgot now what it was, that he copped some serious fucking attitude with me, but he said he couldn't wait for me to drink myself to death and die. And I sent him one of my videos when I first started making this channel, and he blocked me. But at some point, a couple of years ago maybe, I decided to see if he had unblocked me, because to be honest, I had another video just for him that I wanted to send to him. But he had unblocked me. But I looked at his profile, and I figured out it wasn't worth wasting my fucking time with, you know, because he posted incel TikTok all day long. He complained about sexual women dragging down Western society. And he complained that he had lost custody of his kids, though it's hard for me to imagine who would want to procreate with him, but he complained that he had lost custody of his kids because in old traditional Western civilization, by God, you had a right to beat your children. You could beat your children. That's the way God intended it to be, to make men men. And he could not tolerate the feminization of his sons and all that. I'm like, this guy is the fucking guru, because he was still posting page 86, 87, 88, and all that other shit. I'm like, you're a fucking loser who beat your children to the point that they got taken away from you. You're so much of a fucking loser that you blame women for all your goddamn problems. And you're the great guru in AA that everybody's supposed to look up to. And you're going to tell me that I'm a loser and a failure because I can't stop drinking. I don't think I want your advice. I don't think I need your advice. I certainly do not want what you have. You know, I didn't even bother sending him another video. I just blocked him myself. I was like, fucking, that is what I worried about. You know. And it was a common trend that I saw quite a lot in AA itself. I became convinced before I left AA, because I would see the way people would act in meetings and I would see the way people would act outside of meetings. And I became convinced that it was all just a performance. It was something they did every night where they got called on, where they got their little high from the roar of approval from the crowd, and that was it. You know, none of them seemed to be logically consistent, like this incel guy I was talking about. He used to go around telling people all the time, why don't you stop being a fucking victim? Why don't you stop? Your entire goddamn social media is complaining that you're the persecuted person because the government took your kids away from you beating on them, and you sit down all day long posting this shit and blaming women for all your fucking problems, and you're telling me to stop playing the victim and other people like me? Give me a fucking break. And I noticed that as a common trend among damn near every celebrity or every AA hegemony member or every guru. And in fact, it leads me to read this comment here, and it's where the subscriber told me, I've been exposed to AA for 30 years. It's ridiculous. Well, I would have to totally agree. I don't think these people got some secret knowledge about anything by going there. And in fact, I'm convinced that no one believes this crap. I'm kind of convinced, in retrospect, looking back on all of it. They just pretend to do this while they're at the meetings. The purpose of AA is to provide a captive audience to people that no one can stand to be around. I kind of agree with that. It's a clubhouse for boring, arrogant, self-centered assholes that have agreed to tolerate each other as long as they get a turn in the spotlight. That is 100% true. You know, there was one AA clubhouse I went to where there were these 3 different gurus that everybody, they even kind of herded their sponsees around like fucking teams or something, you know. Well, I'm this man's sponsor, you know, and well, I'm this man's sponsor. He does the 4th step differently and all that other kind of stuff. Well, now you would think these 3 guys, all being 30-year vets and all that other kind of stuff, would be secretly friends. They all trash talked each other behind their back. They would sit in meetings and talk about, like my good friend over there. And then when the meeting was over, you know, he doesn't really have 30 years sobriety. You know, he smoked a joint last year. I saw him doing it, you know, and all that. They all secretly hated one another. The gurus all secretly hated one another. The popular in crowd all secretly hated one another. They lied about one another to the point that I wouldn't take any of them at their word about anything. But as long as they were all getting a share, they were copacetic with the whole entire thing. In fact, I saw some of them, and I'm not just talking about those 3 guys, I'm talking about in meetings in general. I saw people that were accustomed to making their sermons every meeting when they got called on. I would see them jump up and storm out of the room when the meeting was almost over because they knew they weren't going to get called on. They weren't going to get their 10-minute talk. And I'm supposed to want what they have. Yeah, I really want to look forward to sitting in a meeting for the rest of my life, getting called on so I can regurgitate the same old baseless garbage that has no scientific backing whatsoever. It doesn't comport to any kind of reality. People, and I guess he's talking about me, you are simply too honest and sensitive to be a member. Look carefully at the next 35-year chip carrier that goes to 3 meetings a week. I knew some that went to 3 meetings a day. Without AA, they would be a lonely, ignored nobody that people would avoid. But in AA, they were a famous superstar, famous for not doing something. They didn't drink alcohol. Whoop-de-doo. My hat's off to them. They should start bossing me around as soon as possible because they've clearly figured it all out. It gets me, and I think, again, as I began this video with at the very beginning, it gets me that a medical doctor with a degree in neuroscience, it's a couple of videos back I keep basing off of here, a medical doctor with a degree in neuroscience could possibly promote something like AA as a healthy cult. It's a cult, but it's a good cult. When you see this kind of behavior rampant, okay, because like I said in another video, or in this video, I mean, I kind of lost track of sometimes I repeat myself in these videos. I am aware of that. I've had subscriber comments from all the way over in Scotland and the UK, the UK and Scotland, I mean, England, Scotland. I've had comments from people out in California. I've had comments from people in Canada. I've had comments from everywhere. And they all seem to hint at the fact that this seems to be a recurring theme in AA. That it's a group, it's a hegemony run by this tiny little group that controls everything, that all gets to talk, that all gets to have their time in the spotlight, and everybody else is just churned in and out. They don't really give a fuck. As far as they're concerned, when all the old members churn themselves out, all the new people, then they got a fresh supply of victims that has never heard their drunkalogs, that's never heard their stories before. And, you know, and they got new people to prey on, new people to borrow money from, new people to fuck over, new people to take advantage of. And again, if that is a rampant type of behavior in AA, then it's very, very dangerous to tell people that it's a good thing to go there. I mean, it's very dangerous to send people to a potentially negative, harmful situation where they could be used, where they could die as a result of it. George Valiant's several-year study about the effectiveness of AA, where he was trying to prove AA works, showed that binge drinking was higher, suicide rates were higher, lots of things were higher after exposure to AA. People that did not go to AA had better results quitting drinking. So yeah, you can quit drinking on your own. You don't need to worry about character defects and turning your life over to some made-up higher power that some guru who doesn't obviously have a grip on reality other than the fact that he gets to talk and gets called on. You don't have to put your trust in them, and you certainly don't have to want what they have. Anyway, that's all I got for this week. Chime in the comments. Let me know. Did you see anybody in AA that had their life together? Or was it just kind of the common theme of people that just lived to be called on so they could talk? That was it. They didn't seem to apply any of this shit in real life. Later.